I said, take me to fucking Fat Albert. Dude, I said, listen, he's 400 pounds. I said, I'm telling you, I can beat him in a foot race. I said, I've got a 30 fucking yard head start. I just need you to have the car window down and the door unlocked. And I'm like pumping him up like, you were born for this, bro. Like, this is your moment. Dude, he's got a gallon Ziploc baggie of capsules, and that's all I can see. And I remember giving him the money, shoving him, grabbing the bag, and I'm off. I swear to God. But there's no fucking Jimmy.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Crime and Entertainment. I got a very special guest here. Please welcome Aden Leonard. Aden, how are you, my friend?
Good, man. Thanks for having me.
So you got a podcast. Tell us a little bit about your podcast.
Yeah, so the podcast is called The Never Broken Podcast, and that is a special name for me. I'm a recovering addict, so we'll get into that. But, when I was getting sober, I met a guy, and, I was complaining, I was bitching and moaning one day to him. And, he's like, stop saying you're broken and all this, BS. He's like, you're not. He's like, you're alive. You haven't died. You have an opportunity. You just got to put the work in. And that stuck with me. So when I started doing a podcast, I was like, I want to talk all things, but I want to have a name that sticks out, that's special. Yeah. And I was like, Never Broken, the Never Broken Podcast with Aden Leonard. So that's how I got that name. That's how I came up with it.
Well, we'll get into the basis of that and, the Never Broken. So, like all good stories, man, let's start from the beginning. What's early life? How'd you come up? What area?
So I'm from central Pennsylvania, very small town. And my mom decided to go to jail.
It happens.
Yeah. Well, my family is dysfunctional. We put the dis in dysfunctional. So real quick, my mom was with my dad and had a good life. And, her brother and sister said, hey, her name was Marcia. She, passed away. Hey, Marcia, we have these checks here. We worked on this guy's truck, but we don't have a bank account. And he paid us with checks. Will you go cash them? Yeah, why not? So she goes, cash. And this is in 1990, So she cashes the checks, back then I'm sure it took like a month for a check to clear, whatever. So eventually the checks come back that they're stolen. And, she's going to get arrested. And the cop says, I'll drop the charges right now because the guy don't even know who you are. But he knows that your brother and sister were near the truck. They were seen, but we can't prove it. I'll drop the charges if you cooperate with us, nothing. And she wouldn't do it. So they said, fine, you're going to get charged with felonies and you're going to go to state prison. And she did. So I came to live with my grandparents. My father, was too much for him, because they had 4 kids and it was too much for him to go to work and pay a sitter. And the babysitter didn't want to watch a boy because I had 3 sisters. So I came to live with my grandparents. And, that's where life really, really started.
Okay. And how was, with that kind of transition, because I've known, friends of mine that had, dysfunctional home lives and then they go to their grandparents. Was that a good thing for you? Is that a bad thing? Sometimes grandparents can be old school and you go pitch your own switch for them to whip your ass with, or they can be really, really relaxed and the kids run roughshod over them.
They were old school in essence, but I was spoiled. I was a spoiled brat.
Okay.
So I was the only black kid. I'm biracial. I was the only mixed kid in my area. My grandfather was like a known racist before me. And when I came along, I kind of changed his world. So I got what I wanted, I played sports, but if I wanted this, I got it. If I got, in trouble, because let me paint you a picture. My grandparents had 10 kids. They grew up rough. He owned a garage. My aunts and uncles got their ass whooped. I don't ever remember him hitting me. You know, if I got in trouble at school, they'd be like, this is bullshit. You didn't. Now, it was, hey, well, he didn't really do it. It was different. Yeah. So I had a good. It was good. Like I said, I could do what I wanted. I got away with whatever I wanted. So.
And then are you still in this business now? But when did you start getting into was it tree removal?
Yeah. So I'll tell you what happened. So growing up in high school, I played football. And, I was good. I was decent. I got a lot of Division II, Division III offers. And I went to school. I didn't like it. It wasn't for me. My grandfather said, well, you need a job. So where I'm from, you either work construction, you either do tree work, you weld, or you're on disability. Those are the options, it's a small town and everybody trims trees, so I was able to get on with a company by the name of Penline, and I was 19 years old, riding down the road in a pickup truck, heading to Virginia, because we traveled, because like I said, guys would work out of town through the week, come home on the weekends. So I remember I'm driving down the road, and I drank in high school, these guys are smoking weed, and they're like, hey, new kid, the guy's like, hey, we get down here, we got a piss test. I'm like, okay. He's like, give you like $50, dude. Can you piss for me right now? And I'm like, wow, what the fuck are you even, like, I have no idea. And I'm like, yeah, sure, I guess. So, yeah, so that's how I got into trees, and I was young, and they were starting to put laptops in the superintendent's truck. So he comes to me one day and he was like, you're young. I'm sorry if I curse on here.
No, you're fine.
Like, you're fucking young. You know how to work this laptop? It's in the box. And I'm like, yeah. And I'm like, but we got to get Wi-Fi. He's like, yeah, they want me to send emails and all this shit. I'm like, yeah, well, you got Wi-Fi? You got service? He's like, what the fuck is Wi-Fi? I'm like, it's the service, internet. Well, what's internet? So I started to teach him how to use a computer, but I knew back then, I said, hey, I don't want to be working out here like this till I'm 50, like these guys. I want you to teach me the business. I want to be like you, because you're the boss. You're going to pick up, you get to go to meetings. I like doing shit like that. Yeah. And he was like, all right, I'll teach you. And he kind of taught me, and along I went and progressed.
Okay. So you got a love for the business. You mentioned in some text messages that we had spoke on that there was a time where were you experimenting with drugs? Did you get prescribed drugs? Because with the pills, I know a lot of guys, man, they weren't people that,
I cut myself in a tree one day. Okay. Stupid. And I go to the hospital, and, it was on work. They paid for it. Well, the doctor's like, yeah, I'm going to give you like 50 Percocet, 10 milligram. I'm like, okay. No, granted, I was, I drank, I was a drinker, like on the weekends. Well, I started, going around some other people, working around guys that are blowing coke and just going crazy. So I get a script of Percocet, and my buddy's like, hey, man, drinking. He's like, you crush a couple of them up, snort them to feel real good. I'm like, what? He's like, yeah, give me that. And I'm like, okay, here's a bottle. Here's 4 or 5. And we did it. And, we snorted them. And, I was tuned in. Like, my ears were ringing.
4 or 5 perk 10s, I bet so.
Drinking. And I'm like, fuck, dude, this is awesome. And I met this, I ended up meeting this chick. And, like I said, it was like, I felt like a rock. I'm like, now I went back to work. And I was like, now I fucking see why you guys do this. Now I get it, So it was experimental at first, just on the weekends, But I'm not a junkie. I'm not doing heroin, I'm not putting a needle in me, Real quick, my mom had a coke problem, and I was born to actual coke baby. So we're at a party one night, and this guy's like, hey man, you got $100? I'm like, yeah, I've lived at home. He's like, well, I can get us some coke. He said, but I got no money, but I know the guy. He's like, I got like $40. He was like, so I'll get us a gram, and I'll give you, 3/4 of a gram. Just give me a quarter of it. And I guess I wanted to be cool. I was trying to entertain an older lady, and I was like, sure. And the minute I did my first line of coke, I remember when I was younger, my grandparents got me on this medicine. And because I used to have, when I was a baby, they're like, you withdrawal. Well, I used to always have this taste in my mouth sometimes, dude. I'm telling you, first time I ever did cocaine, I went back to being a kid and like, that's the fucking taste that I used to be in my mouth. That's the craving. And I mean, dude, I was just like a rock star. I mean, I've got Percocets, I've got Coke, I've got booze. And you grew up in South Carolina, where there's not NASCAR up there, but there's dirt track racing, and it's a big thing. I mean, fuck it. I mean, I'm really not into it, but I was there because the parties. And man, when I was riding, I used to call it the train. I mean, it would start and ears ringing, and just we had a good time, man. And I was the life of the party. Like I said, I like to have fun. I like to make you laugh, her laugh. If you guys were with me and we're partying, I'm buying, and we're gonna get fucked up tonight. We're gonna go, and that's just how it was. Like, I'm gonna make sure that you remember being with me. Yeah. So next thing you know, I remember one Monday, I didn't feel like going into work. I'm like, man, I don't fucking feel right. And somebody's like, dude, you're dope sick. And I fucking snapped. I ain't dope sick. And everybody said, no, the person that we used to get the drug pills off of, the lady got busted. And, her niece said, hey, Dr. So-and-so, if you go up there and make an appointment, you tell him, you work tree work, your legs, your back hurts. You give him $200. Don't use your insurance. You give him $200, he'll give you a script of this. If you give him $500, he'll give you a script of this. And I said, no way. So I go in the room and I'm sitting there, and he was like, you got any back pain? I'm like, oh yeah, he's touching my back. Oh yeah. And he said, look, he says, what do you want? And I said, no. I said, well, you got any oxys? He says, yeah. He says, I'll give you a script, Oxy, some 20 milligram oxys. He said, but it's $700. But I'll give you the whole script. He said, I can give you 2 a day right now. He said, and you can come back to me for at least 3 to 4 months before I got to start getting X-rays and doing this and going to a pain clinic. And I said, well, I've only got 500 on me. He says, well, go down to the fucking ATM and come back. I go to lunch at 12:30, and I did, and I was hooked. I mean, every month.
So you had to pay him $700 cash. Yeah. This is not a doctor bill. You had to
no,
give him $700
he said
cash.
But I'm giving you a script, and I'll date it for today. And yeah, but he says, you've only got 3 or 4 months that I can do this, because they're starting to crack down. Yeah. He's like, you need to go get some X-rays. But he's like, I got that. So next thing you know, man, he's like, he's like, you seem like a trustworthy guy. And I'm like, yeah. He says, you ever fucking send anybody here? He said, and you don't tell me. He said, it won't. But he's like, if you tell me, he says, for every person you get, I'll knock $100 off. So I sent him 2 people. And next thing you know, man, he's giving me scripts. And I was, running around with a girl. She liked Xannies. I didn't do Xanax. He'd give me a prescription of Xanny bars. I mean, so, yeah, dude. So we were small town. And
is this doctor in jail right now?
Yeah, yes.
Okay. All right. I just want to make sure.
Yeah. Not because of me though, but no. So yeah, that's how it started. And then he started getting greedy. And I started, doing steroids, doing pain pills. And we're in his office one day, and he's like, making this excuse, I can't give you this anymore. I got to taper you down. I got to put you on Vicodin. And, I'm starting to become, used to Oxy. And I said, I don't want Vicodin. And I remember he was like, he always wanted to be called Dr. Such and Such. And I called him his first name, and he was like, no. And I said, no. I said, remember, I pay you every month. I send you 10 people that come here now. I said, you're giving me the script of Oxys. And he said to me, and what if I don't? And dude, I'm 21 at the time, jacked. I said, or I'd beat you the fuck up. And like, he was a small doctor, and I stood up. And he was like, then he saw, he was like, okay. So I fucking grabbed him, like by his neck. And I was like, write the fucking script now, or somebody's going to come in here and find you on the floor. Or I said, better yet, why don't I just go tell the fucking cops? Pardon me, I'm sorry, or tell your wife that you're banging my 20-year-old friend. How would she like that? And that you got me hooked on oxys and you're banging my 20-year-old friend that I got pictures of, which I didn't, but he wrote the script and he gave me 90 that. He gave me 90 that month. Instead of 60, he gave me 90. But he said, don't fucking come back. And I said, oh, I'll be back. So that's how it started. Well, long story short, him and his wife, she finds out that he's having an affair. She said, you're taking the kids, we're moving. We're moving to Florida, or I'm leaving, and he ended up getting busted in Florida. He continued to do what he did. So now I'm out of oxys. Nobody can get him now because he was the only doctor. We went.
Are you taking all these?
Huh?
Are you taking them or you selling?
No, I'm taking them.
You're taking them?
Yeah, yeah. I was not a dealer. I used, And listen, I'm not on here to say, oh, I was on 30s a day. No, but I'd get them. I'd crush 2 or 3 up, snort them, and so, and then a couple hours later, but I don't know if you can tell, I've got an addictive personality. So when there's no more doctor around, I'm sick. Now I'm like, my back hurts, I'm clammy, I don't like this, I'm angry, I want to fucking fight somebody. I would do whatever I could. I remember, I'm off work, because I didn't show up to work because I went to a event and I got fired. So now I'm writing checks. I'm writing bad checks. And, I had a friend of mine that I'd write her a check. She'd go to a different bank. She'd go to her bank, cash the check. We'd go. And she says, I can get us dope. And I'm like, man, I don't want to fire. I don't want to do heroin. I'm not. And she says, look at you. Like, we're in my car. And she's like, look at you. She says, you're already there. She says, you're threatening to beat people up. And she's like, we're writing bad checks to get pills. She says, you need to stop with this. You don't have a problem. Like, it needs to stop. And, I said, if I didn't know you, and you weren't a woman, I'd just fucking smash your face right now. And she says, give me the money. So where we live, Baltimore was 3 hours away. So she goes to Baltimore. I sit there at my house for like 5 hours. I'm running to get cell phone service. I'm blowing her up. I'm almost shitting my pants. It's not. So she finally comes back and she says, you want to sniff it or you want to shoot it? And I had like I said, the only thing I had shot at the time was steroids. And I was like, I really don't know. I don't know. And I watched her shoot. And I watched her go literally from here, from being sick, to the life come back in her and to her go like this. And next thing you know, I'm waking her. Hey, wake the fuck up over here and help me. Get. I fucking paid for it. I said, next time, I'm doing it first. So I had good veins then. I didn't even have to tie off. She stuck that needle in and I saw the blood kick back. There was already blood in the needle. I'm not trying to, but she pulled it back. I saw that blood and she pushed, and I'm talking instantly, dude. It was better. My mouth waters now, and I haven't done that in 8-9 years. It was better than an orgasm. Oh, dude, I remember, and it's like, what? I remember the feeling in my stomach, everything. It started at my feet and just, So then I teach her how to shoot me, how to hit me. And she was like, Aden, you don't even need to tie off. She was like, look, just go here. Fucking when you do. And once she taught me, it was game on, bro. We're talking every hour. I came more in love with the feeling of shooting up than I did the actual dope. Now that I've quit, and it was harder for me to stop shooting up than it was the dope. I think because of that addiction, like when that needle would come in and you'd see that blood kick back, you knew, at least I shouldn't say you knew, but I knew at least for 15 to 20 minutes I could feel normal. I could feel good,
So that was your idea of normal, that feeling?
Yeah, I skipped over a lot, but when I was in high school, a girl that I wanted to take her to prom because I was a football player and I needed a prom date, and I was an asshole, and most girls didn't want to go with me because they knew what I wanted, I ended up getting her pregnant. I ended up having a stillborn. my senior year of high school. And so I watched her give birth. Her parents made her give birth. I watched her give birth to a baby that was already dead. And I really didn't have anybody around, a support system. You know, my best friend had died 2 years before that in a car wreck. And I'd started to have a relationship with my mom. And then she had messed up again, not on drugs, but got another felony charge. And I'd watched her just get, 5 years sentence. So I was hurting, man. But like I said, I wasn't, I was hurting, and that took it away for a while. Like, I didn't have to think about it. I didn't have to forget. When I would be drinking and I could do drugs, that was a normal. I liked the feeling,
You talk about, that blood going in there. I always thinking that scene from Pulp Fiction. Whenever he shoots up from my guys, he goes over there and he's like, "Mind if I shoot up here?"
Yeah,
and
he's
got his little zip case
yeah.
or whatever, takes it out, and you see when it draws back in there and shoots it in. I've never done heroin, man. I've always been scared to death of anything with needles. No, I'm not planning on it. But I am curious.
It does make you feel good. I don't know anybody that's ever done heroin and said, "Oh, it made me feel bad." I mean, when people are fucking, you're like, you're not like
that's
that
what
because
you see,
feel bad nowadays. But it ain't even dope nowadays. Listen, this dude near Philly, and I had to drive there for work. This dude is folded over like a chair, like revert, and I mean, he is out, and fucking, I don't know how that he was even like that, but he's folded over, and I'm thinking, man, was it that good when we did? At least we had heroin. Now the dealers now, they just want to kill you. Like, at least my dealer, he wanted me to come back.
Yeah, you want him to stay alive.
He put a little makeup in there because he knew I was only getting 5 or 10, but Aden will be back, I was the guy beating on your door at 3 o'clock in the morning, throwing windows. Hey. It's 3 a.m. Listen, if you don't come to the door, I'm putting a fucking rock through the window. You're giving me what I want. I'm paying it, but I was just a nut. So I got to tell you a story. The guy is dead now, Jim. But it's funny. So we decided to go to Baltimore, and this is when things are real bad. And we don't have much money. And I remember I said, dude, I was really fast in high school. I was. And the guy that we were getting the dope off of would come out of his house, and he always would flash his money. So he's a big fat fuck. Come out, and he'd have a wad of money, and then he'd have the dope in a big gallon Ziploc bag. Yeah, what you need, and I said to Jim, here's what I need you to do. And I said, look, when I get out, we always circle the block. I said, if you circle the block and park the car like this to where the passenger side is to my left, I said, I'm going to give him like $6 or $7. We're going to roll it up real tight, put rubber bands over it, because he never counted it until you let. And I said, when I hand him it, I'm hitting I'm grabbing the bag, and I'm going to come, and I'll jump in the window and fucking speed off. No, you can't do that. So we drive around for 3 hours trying to find. We couldn't find. And I said, dude, I'm fucking telling you, take me. We called him Fat Albert. I said, take me to fucking Fat Albert. Dude, I said, listen, he's 400 pounds. I said, I'm telling you, I can beat him in a foot race. I said, I've got a 30 fucking yard head start. I just need you to have the car window down and the door unlocked. And the fucking car in drive, foot on the brake, ready to go. I said, that's the only thing that I need you to do. And I'm like pumping him up like, you were born for this, bro. Like, this is your moment. Like, this is why you're here. I'm not bringing anybody else. It's you. And he's like, you're right. I said, remember in football, dude, how we used to get like psyched up, and you'd punch your face? Yeah. I said, that's what you need to do. I want you to imagine that he's an opponent. He rips us off all the time. I said, it's time for us to take it back. And he's like, you're right. And he puts on a fucking bandana and ties it. I'm like, okay. I said, what are the instructions? Make sure the car's in drive, the window's down. So I walk up to him, and we're there, and he comes out, and this is going to sound racist. I'm black. I can't talk black. So, he's doing his thing. And, man, next time you come down here, if y'all ain't got $300-400, I ain't even going to serve you. Y'all broke. And I said, yeah, I know times are tough. And, yeah, man, what you need to do is get in this game. And, I mean, bro, he whips out a fucking wad of money. But I don't want money. I want the dope. And then he's like, right here, look at this. And in Baltimore, they would put it in. They didn't sell stamp bags. They would put the dope in like the capsules. Mm-hmm. Dude, he's got a gallon Ziploc baggie of capsules, and that's all I can see. I remember giving him the money, shoving him, grabbing the bag, and I'm off. I swear to God. But there's no fucking Jimmy. and I hear him yelling, oh, I got a gun. Next thing you know, I see the car come around the corner. The fucking door is locked. And I'm like, let me in. The door's locked. So then he puts the fucking car.
Yeah, one job.
Yeah, and he puts the car in park. And finally, I fucking get in the car. And I said, okay, drive slow. What do we do? First thing, dude, there's a light. There's a red light. He runs it at 50 miles an hour. There's a Baltimore PD cop sitting right there. And he's like, dude, we're getting pulled over. I said, no, you just ran a red light. And I said, act cool. And he says, well, I said, take the fucking bandana off. So the cop comes up to the car, and he sees PA plates. And wait, I'm not. We're two pretty boys, him and I. We're not gangsters. And the cop goes, let me ask you this. And Jimmy's like, here, officer, license and register. I said, he didn't even ask you for that yet. What did? And the cop says, what are you doing down in this neighborhood with Pennsylvania plates? And Jim says, I said, look, his old lady left him 2 weeks ago for some guy that lives down here. And I told him that, he needs to stop looking for, but we're down here trying to look for. And he thought that was their car. So he ran a red light, officer. The cop looks at me and says, you think I'm fucking stupid, don't you? He says, what happens if we search you boys? He says, what happens? And I'm thinking, uh-oh. Yep, we're going to jail. Wade, honest to God's truth, I'm not making this up. A call came over the radio, and it was like officer and assistants or whatever. And I remember that cop saying, I got to go because this is more important. But he says, I'm telling you, if I see this car again here, I'm searching it. No, get the hell out of town. I thought I was going to jail, and I'm too pretty. I'm too pretty to go to jail. And I told Jim, he said, what would you have done, dude, if he'd have found? I said, I was telling on you, bro. It was his. Look at me. I don't look like a junkie. It's him. I told him. I'm done with this. And, we were down here looking for his girlfriend, and he went and he bought dope because he's trying to take the pain away. What am I to do?
You and Matt would be telling on each other so fast.
Oh, yeah.
Matt is open. He's like, I'll tell in a minute.
And Jim says, so you really would have? I said, I'm not going to jail. I said, now, had we been gotten well first? I said, I might have. I said, but we're sick. So we do that, and, he later dies. But, yeah, man, that was full bore. And I didn't think I had a problem. I'm thinking that this is what I worked. I'm a functioning, I didn't know what a functioning addict was. Yeah. But I go to work. I'm not robbing to do this. I mean,
other than the drug.
Yeah. I'm writing bad checks. Yeah. So, but, I don't have a problem. And then people are starting to talk and notice. And then it started to, get real bad to where I'm just going to, I'm not going to pay my truck payment this week. I'll pay it next week in my phone. And I'm going to use my whole check. And that's when it just started to really get really out of hand.
So I got a question about that. Like I said, I've never done heroin, but I've interviewed people that's been on it, and I know people that's been on historically. And like one of the only people that I can say managed to be able to be on that and still perform at a high level and it not overtake him. And a lot of people didn't even realize he had this problem was Ray Charles.
Yeah.
And he was, it's even in the movie when he's portrayed by Jamie Foxx, like he was a heroin addict, but he could control it. is that feeling that you get, that euphoria, that high or whatever. You mentioned it kind of starts at your feet and rises up. I mean, does it feel like weights on you, or what is that feeling when you shoot?
So I felt like somebody was unshackling the chains and I could be free. You know, Jim and I used to have these conversations when we would be high, and like intelligent conversations too. Like not when you're, slobbering or face down in your Fruit Loops, but I would feel free. I would forget, man. I would. Like, I felt like the athlete again. Like, I felt that feeling, how I used to make people feel, hey, man, I saw you play last Friday. You looked really good. Or, hey, this school sent me a letter. I felt that type of feeling in me. That's the way that it made me feel.
And how long would that last?
It depended on how good it was, how good the dope was,
Average, what, 15, 20 minutes?
Yeah, sometimes. I mean, if you would go and you'd get a stamp, but, people that watch that have done drugs know what stamp bags are, if, stamp bag, sometimes would last me, if I would do the whole bag, hour sometimes, Now,
when you crash, does it have a crash, or do you just go back to?
So, I never had a crash because I'm up here.
Right.
I'm already hot. Like, I'm an upper guy. So, like, I could not do speed sober. I'd have to drink. If I did cocaine sober, I'd go run and fucking hide. I'd geek out. Mm-hmm. I'd run around my house praying to God, don't let me die. I mean, yeah, just, yeah. So, or I'm not doing that again. God damn it. But yeah, I'm already up here. So, I think the opiates and the dope would level me out.
Okay.
Because then I could sit, and have a real in-depth, deep conversation, so I never felt the crash. Now, I know a lot of people that are meth addicts and, that when they would be coming down, they would do some dope to come down, or coke. Mm-hmm. Hey, we've been out, doing coke all night. Hey, man, you got a bag of dope I could get so I can come down and go to sleep. So it's different for everybody.
Yeah.
It is. And, people that aren't addicts don't know what it's like. I mean, you like to drink, mm-hmm. right?
Yep.
So what's your favorite? You look like you like liquor more than beer.
You're 100% right. Yeah.
What's your favorite?
My go-to liquor, I love Red Stag. It's the brand of Jim Beam Black Cherry.
Yeah.
I love that. I've also kind of been partial to the really all the flavored crowns, like Crown Apple.
Well, Crown Apple's good. You put that in the freezer. So
Yep.
imagine you just worked, 60 hours. You go home. It's the weekend. You got your paycheck. You're good, and do you drink it on the rocks?
On the rocks.
Imagine that first drink of the week on the rocks. That burn, but it's a good burn.
Yeah.
That's kind of what heroin felt like to me.
Okay.
That was my burn, but sometimes my burn would mean your face planting in your fucking oatmeal. or whatever. I'm not trying to make. I'm just being honest.
The Red Stag can go there too sometimes.
Yeah. So that's that. But you didn't have to drink as much. You weren't hungover.
Yeah.
But the sickness, that's what they don't tell you about. Mm-hmm. Is the sickness, and it's not. You don't see people rob and do the shit on this when they're when they're high. At least I never did. It was people that were trying to get it.
Get it high.
That were trying to get it. I never came up with schemes, when I was high. It was when I wasn't,
Right. That makes sense.
But I loved it. I did. And I would tell people. I was open. They're like, well, I said, for the longest time, I would say, well, what's the difference between you going out and you drink at a bar, you have a 6-pack, you go in the bar and you smoke your fucking Newports or whatever, and you get in your car and you drive home. I said, I go to work all week. I go and I buy my dope. But I go and I do it in my house. And I sit there and I watch documentaries on, crime families or The Sopranos or whatever. And I stay in my room. I said, so, to people, I said, so tell me, who's the addict? What's so bad about that? Yes, I know. I'm doing a narcotic.
Yeah.
But I'm doing it in my house. You go, you get in a car, you drink, you drive, and are on the road. I didn't. I'd go into my house, man, and watch documentaries, write whatever. And that was a big, and I think it was a mask. Like, dude, you're shooting heroin.
Yeah.
Like that's not normal to do. It's not okay. But it was a mask for me all the time to say, this or that. So when it really came to a clash is, I won't say the name of the company, but I put a truck through a house. I knotted out. I had just gotten well, and I thought I got ripped off, and it kind of, I guess, had a shelf life, and it hit me when I'm at the red light, and I'm at this red light in a company truck, and I start to get that feeling, and I think, oh my God. And next thing you know, I woke up in someone's kitchen. So, and I'm having my wife, when we go home, I'll send you a picture of the paper. So I'm in the driver's seat, and I'm thinking, oh my God, what do? I hear I'm crawling in the passenger seat.
Stay in the passenger seat. That's what I'd have done.
I
don't know who was driving.
I don't know who was. Yeah, that worked. That worked.
Well, did it really? You did that?
No. One of the reasons why I'm going to Columbia to get fake teeth is because that cop said, yeah, you're fucking lying, and blasted me right in the face and busted two of my teeth out. I was like, I haven't seen the son of a bitch in crack. And so he was like, do you understand what you just did? And I'm like, dude, I didn't do it. It wasn't me. But so luckily the guy that I was working for knew the chief of police. And the company said, we'll pay for a new edition. He's got a problem. He's like a son to me. Don't charge him. But you got to go get help. So I go to rehab. And I think rehab's good, but I think they try to overcharge your insurance. Oh, your insurance is going to stop paying at day 24, so we're kicking you out.
Yeah.
And you might need 40 days. Or we don't take insurance. It's $150,000, and it's not like a lawyer where, we take payments. No, it's all of it up front. Mm-hmm. And when you get there, they want to spin this narrative. Sexual, you were touched. That's why you're an addict. I'm in this rehab, and they're like, we got to do group. And I'm there, and I didn't feel like moving. I didn't feel like doing anything. And because before I went to rehab, I had taken a Suboxone and whatnot, and it helped. Well, they had tapered me on methadone, this milligram, and they're like, no, you're getting up, you're going to group, and we're sitting in group, and the counselor's trying to push a narrative.
Yeah,
dude's sitting beside me, telling, that he did something sexual to get his fix. But he did it with a man. And I'm like, oh, Jesus Christ. Well, I'm not fucking doing this. No. Said I was not abused. My pap didn't try to screw me. And I said, the fact that you did that, you really do. You have more problems than the drugs. I don't think the drugs is the problem.
Like a basketball diary.
And they're like, you're going to participate in this. I'm like, I'm not going to sit here and listen to this. And they're like, well, why do you think you're better than that? I said, I'm not saying that I'm better. But I ain't giving fucking Dirty Tom a hand job to get my fix. Sorry, I didn't do it, bro. But that's when I started to realize, because everything was taken from me. So I was going to be promoted and be a boss, which I'd always wanted. That was gone. My job was gone. My truck, the bank came. I wrecked it. I didn't have no insurance.
Pulled it out of the ladies' kitchen.
Yeah. Yeah. And I felt worst of all. There was loans that, not on the truck, but a personal loan. My gram helped me establish my credit, and I defaulted on these loans. And there's this 70-year-old lady who I adored and loved that now has to pay this or it's going to ruin her credit. And, hearing her say, I don't care about that. I care about you. What do I need credit for? I'm going to die in a couple years. That killed me, because I looked at her, because they did more for me than they did their own kids.
Yeah.
And I was literally the black sheep, no pun intended. And I was like, man, maybe I do have a problem. But I knew that I could beat it. I knew, listen, I knew it wasn't going to be easy.
Yeah.
Listen, I knew, and I remember talking to an old head, and he was, telling him about that feeling. He's like, bro, I smoked crystal meth for 30 years. And he got sober, like 1999. He smoked meth in the 70s, 80s, 90s, or whatever. And he was like, I miss that feeling every day. He says, but I know that feeling is only temporary and leads to long-term problems. He was like, my kids don't talk to me or didn't talk to me for 20 years. I lost my wife. I lost my house, this and that. He says, so that feeling that you're obsessed with, you need to find something to replace it, and I'm like, well, what replaces that? So it was working replaced that.
Yeah.
Because now, I'm a junkie. Well, you know what? I'll fucking outwork you, and I'm better at you, not you, at your job.
Yeah.
And I can run an operation, and I understand business, and I can do it. And, slowly, granted, I had relapsed here and there. Like, I'm not going to say that, there wasn't times, because there would be times where I'd be doing real good, and it would just be like I'd get my income tax, and somebody would be like, hey, man, there's some good dope around. And I was masking it, saying I only bought I only bought a bundle, so it really ain't like it used to be. But I'd had slips, for sure. It wasn't like I quit cold turkey. I don't think you can, but that wasn't my plan. It wasn't the plans for me, at least.
Well, I do think he's spot on when you said you have to find something to replace it, because you and I recently just got a podcast talking about my story, and that was a big thing. Like, with the stress and the pressure that I was under, I was drinking a lot more than normal. Instead of a weekend, drink, it was you pour you one on Monday and then one on Tuesday, and then before you know it, now it takes two to take the edge off. And I had to get out of that because I knew I couldn't just come home and drink every day, because then you're gonna, the shit that I do in the mornings is just gonna be worse, because you're having to get up early. You got to have your mind right, welding. You're working with heavy equipment, forklifts, cranes.
Oh yeah,
you got to have it together.
Yeah.
And so when I found the podcast, that's really what helped me, because I was able to dive into that and really, put all my energy into it, and I didn't drink as much. And so I always tell people, like, really the podcast kind of helped save and shape my life to, focus everything on. When did you start yours?
So I have a friend that was a district attorney that fell, and I love him, Bill. Never prosecuted me. So I'll lead in that. So I started it 2020.
It's always good.
But I'll tell you a story about Bill. So my high school basketball coach was a undercover PA state cop. And they used to sit at the border of Pennsylvania and Maryland and whatnot. And they pulled me over one day as soon as I hit PA line. Obviously, somebody told him, hey, he goes down and, I won't say the guy's name, but he was a very large man. Come and got me out of the car, against my own will. He didn't even ask for the owner's card and insurance card. Like, oh, we're already here. Like, I didn't even resist. Like, I'm yelling, I'm not resisting. Shut the fuck. And he pops the trunk, and I was like, and he said, it's not in the trunk. I said, I'm not fucking Pablo Escobar here. What do you think? I'm going and putting it in my trunk. So they found some things. They seized it. It wasn't, when I say a lot, listen, I wasn't the Flores twins. Okay.
Yeah.
But I went down and I bought about, $5,000 worth of heroin, and I was going to come back and I was going to keep half and I was going to sell the other half. But, when you go to the city and you live in the country, you can double your price.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So
they don't have the market cap out there. Right?
So long story short, they took it in, they kind of wrote it up. Bill kind of gave me a second chance, said, don't charge him. The cop talked for me and said, I don't want to charge this. I just want to seize it, whatever, and they didn't. He didn't charge me. But 2020 is when that's how I I thanked him, because when he fell from grace, everybody was like, fuck him and piece of shit. You know how people are. And he and I started to talk in 2020. And then we just did it with, you ever heard of Anchor?
Yeah.
We just did it on our phones. I had no idea. We got on there and we talked and did whatever. It was only audio, no visual. Yeah. And I started to say to myself, look, I know how to negotiate with people. I do it for work, I'm in a management position, and I cut these deals with the utilities and whatnot. And I watched Matt Cox's, my wife and I, we're documentary folks. That's what we do. We watched a documentary or a podcast about him, and it came on about get a hold of me or whatever, and I reached out to him, and he emailed back like, no fucking way, like there's no way this fraudster, and I mean that nicely, is reaching out to me. And it was him. Like, he called, and I was like, holy fuck, it's really you. I about wrecked my car, and I was like, hey, I talked to that fucking guy. And I about, fucking T-boned a lady. And I was like, so I said, look, I'm not very good at this. And like I told you, my spiel is, look, I'm no Joe Rogan, but I hope to be at that level at time. But so my wife and I, because I travel for work, had a bunch of airline miles, and we went to Tampa. And I have a bunch of hotel points, and we stayed in a hotel, and he came there, and that was my first ever audio and visual. And it sucked. It was horrible. I had no idea how to edit, how to upload, you know what I mean? But it was fun, man. It was that's how it really got started.
No, it's good. Matt's a great dude, man. He's helped me out probably more than anybody since I've been in this industry, more than anybody.
Yeah. He's very charming. Deceptively so.
Yeah, exactly. I see how he conned everybody out of
hopefully he said good things about me. I don't know if you ask him about me or
not. Well, when
Matt, answer your phone. I know you got 700,000 subscribers, but you can answer your phone.
When you sent me I think you sent me a friend request on Facebook, and then I seen you had posted him, and I talked to him, and he did talk good about you. And that was the thing, like, he was the first guy I ever told my story on.
Okay.
And then immediately while we were down there, he's like, hey, he's like, when do you stay, or how long are you staying for? And I'm like, a couple of days. And he's like, so you'll be here tomorrow? And I was like, yeah. And he's like, hold on. He goes outside and he calls his buddy Danny, who runs the Concrete podcast.
They're huge, man.
They're huge, yeah.
They're huge.
I think at the time when I interviewed him, they might have had like 600,000 subs.
He's got over $1 million.
He's got over $1 million now. Yeah, this was 2023. So he called. He's like, hey, Danny, this dude's got a great story. He can tell it well. He's going to be in town for the next 2 days. If you want to grab him.
So Danny's in Tampa.
Well, he's in Clearwater.
Okay.
Yeah, not far from there. It's like an hour from there. And Danny agreed, so we met, and so I do Matt Cox and then Danny back to back days. And then, I thought, all right, well, he's done the episode, he's got what he wanted, but we stayed in contact. We would text, and I would shoot him ideas and ask him how to do stuff, and he would explain it. And we became friends, and I'm friends with him. I'm friends with his wife. They've invited me to their home. I've stayed there. Every time they go and they travel, they'll send a postcard. Like, nobody does that anymore.
Nobody sends
postcards.
Yeah.
I've got postcards from him from Denver, from New Orleans to California, or Vegas. I think they went to. He's a really cool dude, man. And
I wanted him to come to work for us. I wanted him to be a sales guy. Yeah. As I said, I can put you in front of a fucking customer, and I'm telling you, you will rock. And this, when I met Matt, I mean, his podcast was obviously bigger than mine, but I don't think he wasn't at 700,000. He was
when I did him, he was at 75,000. He hadn't even broke 100.
Yeah. He had a guy that was like his co-host.
Zach?
Not Zach, but that's how I met Matt. Lewis or something, or it's like a Spanish guy, or he would help Matt. This is back when Matt was selling the paint. They were I shouldn't say, but the Patreon, the paintings, and all that.
The only one that I know that helps him behind the scenes is Colby. But that's when
this guy was a co-host.
Okay, yes, I don't even remember having a co-host.
Yeah, kind of, or they would do podcasts together. But yeah, I mean, he was the one that told me, when I put his episode, because I thought I'm going to put this guy on that's got this big following. It's going to go. He's like, that's not how it's going to happen.
Yeah.
He was like, said it to me nicely. He's like, you don't have a following, so nobody's going to know.
Nobody's going to. Yeah, and that's exactly right. And that's the hardest thing about this business is knowing that you just did a dope-ass interview with a kick-ass story with a hell of a message, and it's not going to get the same types of plays.
Because I've never been to federal prison. I didn't work for the cartels. I really don't have. I mean, I think I have a good story about real life, but I'm not going to get the kind of traffic that he would, or Ian Bick, that's what I told my wife. I think that I just need to go create a scam and go to federal prison, and I'll fucking be a star on YouTube because I've already had the podcast, and hey, look, he's got a podcast. Boom. It's crazy. You asked where I was from. So my hometown is where they arrested Luigi Mangione at. My lawyer that I have is the lawyer that he hired to handle his state case for being charged in Pennsylvania. Yeah. and I was 10 minutes away from going to that McDonald's that day. Because there's a Sheetz. I don't know if you've ever heard of Sheetz.
Yeah.
They're a big convenience store up in the Northeast. They have one in Michigan now. They was over there, and I was thinking, man, imagine if I could have snitched on that guy, I'd fucking be a star.
And I don't even think they paid that McDonald's person.
Fuck no.
Because it was something about, I forgot the loophole they used to not pay her.
I heard from, I can't reveal this source, but I just said something, but she has a record, is on probation, and I heard that they said, well, you're on probation, and you owe restitution. So, guess what? You ain't fucking getting a reward because you don't have your restitution paid. Now, that's what I heard.
I thought it was something along the lines of like she called and reported him and said it could be him or something along those lines. What a bunch of scumbags. Yeah.
You put the guy's picture out there and say call, and she calls and it's him. And, but yeah, so I've been trying to, nobody can get to that guy.
Yeah.
But I'm very good friends with his, so have you ever, the lawyer's on TikTok, his name's Tom Dickey, it's out there in public. I'm very good friends with Tom. He's represented me on some stuff, I used to go to Walmart and beat the hell out of them on the self-checkout. I'd fucking run them like they're no tomorrow. Oh, I was. When they finally caught me, I was up probably 20, 25 grand. And they got me for fucking 500. Yeah, dude. My wife and I used to fucking go in there and just run it. I'm being honest, too. You can look that up, too. I was charged with shoplifting. I'm sorry. I paid my fine. And then and you know how they caught me? My son is very hyper like me. The time that they catch me doing it, I had stopped for years. My son ran out of the store, and I ran out to get him because I didn't want nothing to happen. And there was this town cop that, I used to make fun of back in the day, I guess. Fucking, yeah, you didn't pay for that toothbrush, toothpaste, shampoo. And they charged me with shoplifting. And I go in, and the judge is like, Mr. Leonard, how much do you make a year? And I lied to her because I'm like, if I tell her the real number, I'm not getting probation.
Yeah.
And so I told a number, and the fucking assistant DA's like, Your Honor, that's inaccurate. We have Mr. Leonard's tax returns. He makes X, and she just comes unfucking glued. And I said, well, Your Honor, I had to let them win once. But I've proved her wrong because she said, you'll be back. But yeah, I was up 25-1.
I knew this guy. He used to go and him and his buddy had a scam at Walmart, right? They wouldn't go in. I'm sure they seen him on the parking lot together, but they would go in separately, right? He would go and buy like the most expensive TV they had.
Oh,
cash.
Yeah.
He would go and get it cash, pay for it, get his receipt. As he walks out, he passed the receipt to his buddy. The buddy would go pick up the same TV and then walk right out the store. And if they got stopped, he just flashed a receipt. Hey, I just bought this a couple minutes ago, whatever, and they let him go. So then 2 days later, they bring one of the TVs back. They get their money back for the first one. They sell the other one. They go and they would just bounce around different Walmarts doing that same scam. And it doesn't have to be TVs. It could be computers, whatever an expensive item that they go do. And they would do it so seamlessly, like the time difference wasn't very often. Dude, they robbed Walmart for a lot of money before they finally got caught.
Yeah, we used to do that back. Like I said, we would go and take, get baby clothes, all kinds of shit. That was the thing to do. I remember the one drug dealer we had. He liked Walmart. You could trade groceries for dope. So you'd go to the self-checkout, and I was scanning about every 5 or 6 items.
I still don't see why they think that's a good idea.
And a lot of places are stopping it.
They should.
You're just
begging to get robbed.
You were asking. Yeah. You know why I think they do it? I think they do it because they need insurance write-off money. I really believe that. So a store like Walmart that's doing, I don't know, what does Walmart make a year? Hopefully somebody watches this that fact checks, but billions.
Yeah,
gotta be. And I think that they need shit to write off. They got to write losses off. Because I used to go in just for fun and ask the manager as I'm about to beat him, and I'm not fit, but how much stuff do you think gets stolen here a year? Oh my, eats it, and I'm like, motherfuckers, and he's like, I know, it's like, if you don't have it, just ask for help. And he's like, yeah. And I'd go to the self-checkout and fucking get $700 worth of groceries. I paid $1.50. And what I used to do, and they're like, well, how'd you get away with it? Well, this is back then. You just flash your receipt, and the guy would be like, I got a kid in the cart, or, I'd have a car seat. I'd put a fake baby doll in there and put the blanket over it, Like, fucking my kid's sick. Get your fucking crusty hands. Go. Shoo. I fucking paid for this. And I'd walk out. So, but don't do that. Don't do that. No, because then they put you on Facebook and it's embarrassing. And it's like, really?
Yeah, it's
and they ask for it. So you know what? This is a different time in my life, but yeah, they asked for it. But I think a lot of stores are stopping it. Like Target now. I went to a Target the other day. They had armed security, and I stopped the guy and I said, armed security? He said, you wouldn't believe how many people steal from self-check. I said, oh, yeah, I do, bud. I do, trust me.
You got no idea. Yeah. No, I'm always hesitant when I'm going through those damn things. If I'm scanning everything right, like I'm in a hurry, and I'm like, I was like, shit, I don't know if that's scanned. I start going back through the bag because I'm like, last thing I want to do is not scan, like you said, a fucking bottle of shampoo, and then somebody finds a CD on a receipt, and then you see my damn face up on Facebook for trying to steal shampoo.
And now they supposedly have cameras to where the screen is, here in your scanning. Supposedly they got a camera that is looking at your cart, like you got. And
but whoever's looking at that is on their phone looking at.
Yeah, because they have people that are in back because when they caught me, so they took me back to the back and I saw, all the TV screens and whatnot. But don't do that. But I think they asked for it, man. I do.
But no, they do.
Zach's a good guy, but yeah,
I think he's in jail now, though, isn't he?
I think it was you that told me supposed somebody, cops went to his house and he had a bunch of IDs and socials, and dude, that's what I hate about hiring guys, at my job, because back then they used to send social security cards, birth certificates, IDs, and we have to send it to the office, and I actually got stopped one time. And what it was is that I bought a vehicle, and the plate had not, the paperwork didn't match. The notary fucked it up. Legit mistake. They confiscated my phone and everything. I had to go downtown, and they went through my phone. And they see all these pictures of like social security cards, and the guy's like, "Hey, why you got all these people? And they're all Hispanic because most of our labor is Hispanic." And I'm like, bro, I'm a manager at work. This is, the hiring process. And he's like, you don't delete it? And I was like, yeah, I get busy.
Yeah.
Like I said, do some identity theft, go to prison. YouTube subscribers are through the roof.
Yeah, keep them options.
Yeah, but no. But that seems, that's why I get frustrated, though, sometimes. Because sometimes I'll get frustrated, but I'm like, yeah, you can't. Because it's like, the people that got good stories that have been in prison, people like that, which is good, but it's an outlet. But if you're an everyday person, it is different. But yeah. I'm proud of myself because I've gotten some like really big name guests like Anthony Ruggiano, Anthony Arleata, Nick Garris on my pod.
Arleata's a good dude.
Yeah, Arleata's a solid dude, man, solid dude. So I've had those guys on. It's like I don't even have 5,000 subscribers. So it's like, you know what?
And listen, that speaks volumes for them, too, that's coming on there and doing that.
Yeah.
When I went down there, and
Gene.
I don't think I interviewed Anthony when I was there. I was doing Ian's interview. And then I met up with Anthony afterwards, and he took me out to a restaurant. And like,
where'd he take you? Up in Connecticut? Up in Connecticut?
It had to be near there because I got back to it was near.
Was there a big room in the back?
Yes.
Yeah, that's where I shot the pod. I'll show you the pod. That's where I shot the podcast.
It was a
nice place.
It was a steakhouse. So it was
really
good.
Oh yeah.
And you could everybody was knew him, say hey, and and all that. And, you know, we're hanging out. He was like, look, he's like, you know, I just want to let you know, no disrespect. He's like, about 8:39, he's like, I'll take you wherever you need to go. But he's like, I don't stay out late. He said, look, he's like, I'm changed, but some things stay the same. And if people start fucking with me, he's like, then I'll just lose it. So he's like, I like to go home and be in bed by 9 o'clock, you know.
Good dude,
in
man.
most cases. Yeah, he's a great
I went up there and I was traveling. I have a small bank. My bank froze my card because I was traveling and I couldn't get to him. And I, you know, like he helped. Like I said, he bought me my meal and everything. Good dude. I got nothing but love for that dude.
Yeah.
You know.
Have you already had a fascination with like the mob genre in those movies? And
So
stuff like that,
I'll tell you something fascinating with me real quick, and I want to tell this story. I've been dying. John Gotti and I have the same birthday.
Really?
10/27. If there's anything that I could have been in this life, if I was, and I mean this, if I don't meet my wife or this and that, anything else, I'd have loved to have my father be Italian and been in the Cosa Nostra, a mafia guy, straight. I'm not saying I'd have been a killer, but I'd have been a racketeer.
Yeah.
I have a fascination with Gotti,
Yeah.
because of what he did, where he came from, and I'm very lavish too. I like to dress nice. I guess you could say cocky, very confident. I love it. I do. You know, granted, I know people say, well, he was racist. I think back then, if somebody that's, you know, they were trying to kill people,
Yeah.
and there was black people tried to kill them. So I think if a black person was trying to kill them, I don't think they said, oh, you unnice black people. But I love the mafia. I love that. So my grandfather was Italian. Just everything about it. The secret society you're not supposed to tell. But I liked John. I shouldn't say it like I knew him, but he was who he was.
Yeah.
And I like that. And I never ran from who I was.
Right.
Whether it was good or bad, you know. I mean, and that if you're with me, you're with me all the way to the gate. I love that attitude, man. I do. You know, if
Same.
we're gonna do this, all the way to the gate.
And that was how he was, and I think that's what appealed to him. Even if you didn't know a lot about the genre, or if you didn't know a lot about the mob, you knew who he was, and you've seen those clips on TV where everybody was like, oh, they were so pissed when they finally put him in jail. He was just him unapologetically. Like he was who he was. He didn't give a shit what you thought. And, you know, I think there's just something about that realness that people gravitate to.
I'm trying to buy the tapes that they caught him on. And supposedly you can buy these tapes. I know there was a book called the Gotti Tapes, but I was talking to somebody. It was somebody, Anthony. Anthony's not the one that's selling them, but he was like, no, you can buy these tapes for like Freedom of Information Act or something like that.
Yeah.
I want to get the tapes and listen. But he knew he was going to go to jail.
Oh, yeah.
He knew this is how it ends. I'm either dying or I'm going to jail.
Yep.
You know, Sammy, all of them. You know, like I said, you know, Sammy talks about it if you follow him. The news beat them to the police station the night that they got picked up.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody knew. That Gotti, I think, created Court TV.
Yep.
I think that's why Court TV was created, because they did. You can find it on YouTube right now. I have it downloaded for my flight here next week. It's what's his name? Last name, John Miller. Remember, you know, it was him back in the day doing a Gotti trial discussion part 1 for when this is after Gravano flipped and whatnot for 50 minutes. I mean, I think that started Court TV and all that, you know, stuff.
Well, definitely a big fascination in that, and like I said, we've interviewed a lot of the same people. I think you're doing it the right way, man. You're making the strides, you're getting the guests, and as you just keep doing it, getting your face out there, the more you get out there, the more you'll be seen. The followers start to come. Trust me, it's been a grind on my end as well, and now I'm starting to see like a daily increase in followers and subs and things.
How long did it take for you to actually make $1 off of YouTube?
Oh, it took a while. It was over a year. It took a while just to get monetized. That was the hardest part.
And now they upped the limits though to get monetized.
Yes, they did. So it's hard, and people under this something. Oh, you must be making a killing. I'm not. You know, guys like Matt and Joe and Danny and stuff and Ian, they're making a killing.
Guys that have 1 million subscribers. I wanted to ask somebody this. If a podcast that has on YouTube that has 1,000 subscribers, is YouTube where you make your money the most? Not you, but as a podcast, YouTube is where the money is.
Well, YouTube and sponsorships probably.
Yeah, because once you get a guy that's got 1 million subscribers on YouTube, what do you think they're making roughly? Just rough.
The subscribers aren't really where you make your money though. It's the views on the video. That's where the money comes in at. So I figured they can probably do 50 to 100 grand a month.
Are you kidding?
No, guys that put out like that type of content. It's Danny and Michael Francis and Sammy.
yeah.
I bet they could make anywhere from 50 to 100
Because
grand
Danny
a month.
don't have another job, right? Like podcasting
that's all
is
he
his.
does. That's all he needs to do.
Yeah. Julian Dorney. I don't know if you've heard of him.
Julian Dorney, yeah.
Yeah. You were on his show, right, or no?
No, I've never been on Julian's show. No, I'm trying to.
He's interesting.
I'm trying to
That's
twist
where
his
it's-
arm
yeah.
to get him.
He
there.
doesn't like he's not easy to get a hold of, or what?
He's easy to get a hold of, but he's trying not to do repeat guests that other podcasters have done. He's trying to find the newer people. But maybe there's enough time going by, I can slide over.
I've even
Julian.
thought about, becoming a consultant for people to help them get interviewed that have a story.
There's a market for that for sure.
I do, and have you ever, well, I know that, what's it like? Have you met a lot of people, though, that have the managers or the agents that you got to go through them? Can that be frustrating at a time?
Sometimes, yeah, because they don't.
I'll
I like to talk to the person more.
I will give a shout out to Pasquale.
Yep.
Ruggiano's got, that dude's a solid dude. I mean, that dude, if he tells you something, and hey, Anthony wants whatever, or he'll be here at 11, he's there. Solid dude. I got nothing but respect for them. I mean, Anthony's going to come back on the show and be a repeat guest. But yeah, he's a good dude. I like Pasquale, but he's the only one.
Yep. Well, tell everybody where they can go to find your stuff, all your socials, podcasts, and all
Yeah,
that stuff.
so I've also I'm on Facebook, but on YouTube it's at the Never Broken Podcast. They have the ats. Just type in Aden Leonard, the Never Broken Podcast, and I'm on Instagram. I don't do a lot with TikTok.
Yeah,
I'm not a fan of the Chinese, so now I'm gonna get banned. No, I don't know enough about TikTok. I guess
it's a lot more. It's another beast.
Yeah, but that's where you can find me, and like I said, I've got videos there and more to come. I really appreciate you doing this, man.
Absolutely,
Thank you.
brother. I'm glad you could come on the pod.
Yep, thanks.
Thank you. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that'll do it for this episode of Crime and Entertainment. We'll see you next week.